reason, that link was nowhere to be found. I don't know what the heck happened. So anyhow, here I am. Minor technical issue, no worries. But anyhow, it's Thursday afternoon here, 5 p.m. So I wanted to do another live. I did one on Tuesday, and now I think today would be a good day to do another one. What do I have to talk about? So I just came back from the grocery store and unpacked. It seems that my son left, so I'm home alone. Some regular stuff to do. Organizing my kitchen and doing some stuff. I wanted to see if anybody's online to have a conversation with me. What the heck happened with this? Oh, I didn't know I can zoom like that. Oh, that's cool. Anyhow, yeah, so what's going on? This week has been a week of a lot of thinking around my YouTube channel and the growth or lack thereof, so to say. I have my weekly meeting with my social media manager on Tuesdays, and this week we spent a lot of time on talking about how we should be utilizing the data that we have more. And I had now uploaded, I think, 172 long videos over the last almost year and a half. So that's what, year and 5 months, roughly, year and 4 months actually. So that's what, 16 months. And yeah, anyhow, so probably 1.5 to 2 videos per week. So, and I was of the opinion that we should be able to utilize the data more and see what works and what doesn't work, because we could spend hours talking about what other people do and what seems to be trending on YouTube, but if we don't understand what my metrics look like and what my data is telling me, we're actually wasting our time. That's my point. And of course, it's never that simple and straightforward, but let me just try to place this camera here somewhere where it makes sense. So yeah, analyzing that data, and I think we were able to get some, or draw some conclusions out of that, meaning going forward, we need to be able to package the videos better. But this is just normal being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, and I still have a startup with this business as far as creating content goes and my business coaching thing. So it's something that I need to be mindful of. And I said in the beginning to myself that this is going to take 5 years to see what I can truly get done. And I think it's going to be that way. And then the interesting question is that what's going to happen between now and 5 years. So I still have a 3.5 years to go. Of course, it could be faster, it could be slower, but as a rule of thumb, I said that any new business that you're starting, you should give yourself at least 5 years and 10 years to get really good at it. And that's why when we think about seasons in life, a good season lasts at least 10 years, because that's really how long it seems to be taking in order to really get deep into something and get good at it and then be able to monetize your idea and stuff like that. So that's that as an overall statement. What else is going on? I like to start my mornings with one simple question about what's today's signal. What that means in practice is that I need to be able to identify what needs to be done, what's relevant in my life. And I think lately I've been in this mode of just either I'm creating content like recording or planning and getting ready. And this week has been no different. And I think it's been very refreshing and, what's the right word, clarifying, productive in my life to be able to really pause and let certain fires burn and be able to say no to that stuff, because that's just noise. That's just a distraction. Hey, Liviane. So I would highly recommend everybody to go through that exercise. It's not a one-time thing, it's actually a daily thing, because one of my themes in life or principles in life now is that I live in this one-day cycle where every day I start from scratch and I ask the same questions from myself again. What is today's agenda? What is today's signal? What do I need to do to move the ball forward? And then the rest is just noise. And I have to be able to say no to it. And that's really the hard part. Saying no. because by default we want to please other people. We value their opinions, and it's whether it's our relatives or family members, so stuff like that. So, and on another note, my older body's showing signs of aging. So I have this. I mean, I'm just so tight. I mean, my right knee's sore, and my just right shoulder is all messed up. And I saw a chiropractor yesterday. I have a massage appointment for tomorrow, but I refuse to slow down. Yeah, one might say that, okay, you're getting older. You're 48, turning 49 next month, so maybe you don't have to push your body that hard. Yeah, maybe, but I maybe I'm different in that sense, but I can't do that. I refuse to do that, because one of my goals is to just try to see how good I truly can be in all aspects of life, whether it's physical or training or business or being a parent or whatever that is. So it's just not in my DNA. Pausing or stopping is not my thing. I think we should just start the things that we never stop and just keep going until eternity. That's what life is all about. You play infinite games, those games that never end. That's just how I look at it. But anyhow, so yeah, this week has been somewhat, I would say, slower, because most of the quote unquote boring editing work and all that is outsourced now to my social media manager. He does all of that, and I can see that his plate is completely full. I'm a demanding, boss in that sense, that I'm expecting us to go really deep, analyze stuff, and just recognize what's relevant, what's not, and ignore all the bullshit. So in that sense, it's probably not easy to work with me, but I think he also appreciates the honesty and the direct feedback, and I think I'm a very fair guy. And I'm pushing him so that he can also get better, so that we can both get better and see how we can crack this thing going forward. But I just think that the reason why I do these lives is that first of all, this is a good practice to me to be able to tell my stories, because ultimately I'm documenting my life online. And even though my audience is relatively small, it is small compared to the big players. And I'm very humble about it. I'm grateful at the same time, but this is a good platform for me to practice telling my stories and practice simplifying my stories so that they would make more sense than when I record my long YouTube videos. And then at the same time, I think the future is in, like I've said many times, is in these live broadcasts, when people are behind the scenes and they show their true selves, and there's no filter, there's nothing else. So I think that's the beauty of it. So, and let me actually go get my laptop real quick and pull up some notes that I was supposed to take and record. Oftentimes in these lives, I also go back to my own journal with myself. Yeah, let me see here. Let's see if we have a conversation going on today. So last time I did this, which was probably Sunday, because Tuesday, my 2-hour live was about me having those 2 meetings back to back. So I like to go back to my own notes, my journal with myself, and revisit those, read those again during these lives, so that people get an idea as far as what I struggle with, or what the feelings are, or what I went through back in the day. Last time I was here, I think we were somewhere in August, yes, a year from now exactly. Action alleviates anxiety. Actions first, right feelings will follow. This is one of my favorite topics, so for those of you online, only one of you, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but to a stranger, if I had to give people one piece of advice about my life and like the biggest learnings and lessons, it would be to just always remember that actions fix all feelings. So don't ever let your feelings determine what actions you take, because ultimately you're going to be disappointed and you're going to go wrong because your mind is not giving you the right signals most of the time. So I think that's why the number one thing to keep in mind is to just always lead with actions, and then remembering that the feelings will follow when you just do that. Coaching is learn from other people's mistakes. These people have already done what you want to do. By listening to them, you can avoid the mistakes they made. That's right. It's about ignorance that ultimately, if you're willing to pay the price to go from point A to point B, the cost of not knowing what you don't know, you can pay that down in two ways, with time or with money. And that's where a coach can help you when they have actually been there where you want to go. They can tell you what to expect, what the pitfalls are, and what are the skills that are required for that journey. And I think that's, I'm not advocating anybody to hire me, that's what I'm saying, but I think you need to have mentors in life that give you that valuable piece of advice. And I think many people make the mistake of listening to the wrong people. Charlie Munger once famously said that all I want to do is know where I'm going to die and never go there. It's a good way to put it. Avoid stupidity instead of trying to be smart. Avoid all the things that make you look like an idiot and you become smart. I would rather humble myself than let the world humble me. On August 23rd, 24, do you love your goals more than you love your friends? I did when I chose fitness over partying when I was 18 or 19. I did when I chose to move to the US instead of spending the summers hanging out with my buddies. I think we should just do the things that we never regret at the end of the day. If we have that ability in our DNA to be able to talk to our intuition, our DNA, good for us. If not, I think everybody should spend so much time on getting to know who they are that they can activate that conversation. Some people never want to do that. Maybe that's their way of protecting themselves from regret. I don't know, but I've always been terrified about the chance of regretting something when I'm out of time. So that's why I value time over anything, and I just want to do even the hard things, the scary things now, so that I wouldn't need to regret anything when I'm in my deathbed. Somebody else telling me that, look, you have no other option anymore but to just mail it in. School teachers do two things fundamentally wrong. Number one, there's more than one right answer. People are paralyzed to make a decision and move forward because their brains are wired to find that one correct answer. If not, I cannot make a decision and move on. Two, instant feedback loop. Quiz or test, feedback and scores right away. In real life, it doesn't work that way. You need to demonstrate delayed gratification and patience to get really good at something. If you think about it, I'm not saying that school is bad in any way, but I think it's good to recognize that if you think about it, you grow up in your childhood home and your parents are always telling you what to do. There's that way and that way, there's right and wrong. So you get the illusion that there's one right answer to every question, but all of a sudden life happens and then you start to realize that, and by the way, you go to school and the same thing, like in my notes here. Of course, math is different. 1 + 1 is always 2. So it's very binary, it's either or. But most of the questions are such where you can have just multiple different right answers. And there is no right or wrong. It just depends on what your value principles are in life and what you want to do. But I think it's so deep in our DNA that people think that there's always the right answer and the wrong answer. Like, I just use this example all the time, but I just had a conversation with my daughter who's in high school now. It's her second year. And here, you can do your high school in 3 to 4 years. It's kind of flexible. It's kind of like more like, I would say academically demanding than in many countries, but it's like courses. So you get credits from the courses and you basically put together your own schedule, your curriculum. And the good thing is that, obviously, like I said, it allows you to have a lot of flexibility, but I think the bad thing is that there's just It should be more school-like and not like a university already that early. But anyhow, she contemplated this summer before going back to school whether she should do her high school, finish it in 3 or 3.5 years. And I was trying to tell you that, okay, look, the reason why you have a hard time deciding is because you think there is a right answer and a wrong answer. No, get that out of your head. Make the cost of decision making low and not high, so that every decision is like, just, I'm fine either way. Either I do it in 3 years or 3.5 years. Nobody can tell you whether this or that is better than the other one. In hindsight, yeah, maybe you say, okay, it would have been better to do it in 3 years or 3.5, but you never lose. You only win, because either you get the desired outcome or that lesson and the story. So, like I said, make the cost of making decisions low, so that it's just so easy and natural for you to make them, and not the other way around. Because people who think that there's one right answer, they try to avoid the bad answers and decisions so much that they get paralyzed, and that's where fear kicks in. What am I doing here? I'm just reading my notes to myself from last year. This is what I like to do frequently, and these lives are sometimes a good opportunity for me to reflect and sit back and see where my mind was a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever I'm doing. So I get always so much out of these notes when I just do it in hindsight or after the fact. And the instant feedback loop is a different, is another thing, another example. So if you think about it, like the society overall, everybody's always telling you what to do. There's street signs and traffic lights, and everything is about the instant feedback. You're used to somebody telling you constantly what to do. Go here, go there, every turn, whether you made the right choice or not. But life doesn't work that way, especially entrepreneurship. When you start your new business, there's nobody giving you any road signs or instant feedback all the time. You just have to believe in your own capability and travel in the darkness, so to say, and just find a light somewhere. And I think that's why it's so hard, because we were trained to get the feedback constantly from somebody, whether it was parents or school teachers or the society. Like I said, traffic is a good example. But then that's why very few people actually enjoy entrepreneurship, because they don't mind not getting that instant feedback from anybody else. They can actually guide themselves. So if anybody's contemplating entrepreneurship, I think that's one of the things. So how well can you, in other words, it's the same as your ability to deal with uncertainty, the unknown. The better you are at dealing with unknown, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, the higher your chances of, being successful, making money, or creating a business, whatever your goal is. But I think you have to have an exceptional capability to, like I said, deal with uncertainty, because nothing is for sure. On August 24th last year, losers talk about what happened to them, winners talk about what they did despite of that. That's somebody else's quote. I can't remember whose that is. What a shame it would be for someone to never encounter hardship, because they would never be able to see who they truly are. What do you think about that? Ask the goal, shoot the shot, launch the business, run the ad, quit the job, take the risk. When you're 85 years old and on your deathbed, you're not going to wish you had fewer crazy stories. That's what really defines me, or like describes me so well nowadays. Everyone is jealous of what you've got. No one is jealous of how you got it. That's big. If you're the goal, then the actions you take are the measuring stick. You don't need external verification. Yeah, most people don't get a fast enough feedback loop to know they're on the right path. That's exactly what I was talking about with the instant feedback loop built into the society. Parents telling you in the beginning when you're a kid, don't do that, don't do that, do that, and you get constantly feedback. There's verification, there's somebody's validating your every move. You go to school, the same thing, the teacher's always telling you if your answer was right or wrong. When the life happens, it's like, especially entrepreneurship, it's completely different. Yeah, the bigger the goal, the longer it takes to get there. Feedback loop is even slower. Yeah. If you're trying to reach the moon, it's just going to be, imagine there's nobody giving you any feedback whether you're on the right path. I can extend the time horizon indefinitely. The goal is me and the external goals occur. Need for external positive reinforcement is what makes people stop. They don't get the verification they desperately need to know that they are doing the right things. If you can extend the time horizon indefinitely and focus on yourself versus any external goals, you can achieve almost anything. I was pretty smart a year ago. Well, I think this is I picked this up from somewhere, but these are all quotes that served a specific purpose back then when I wrote them. And that's why I want to go back to my old notes to myself, because I need to be reminded like anybody else more than I need to be taught. So I think that's why it's so powerful that we have a mechanism in place, a tool in place, where we can capture our own thoughts and then go back to them and see, okay, how did I feel back then a year ago? You know, where was my mind back then? And that's why I tell all of my clients actually to start journaling. I mean, it might sound like it. When I was 20 or 30, somebody would have told me to start journaling. I was like, no, no, no. Teenage girls do that. And that's just stupidity. No, everybody should journal. I think it's one of the most powerful tools for self-development, and especially gratefulness. If I had to pick one thing that made the biggest impact in my life positively, it would be the fact that I started documenting my life, doing these videos, and started journaling and writing things down, and specifically writing things down that I was grateful for. Because by doing that, it not only makes your own thoughts more positive, but I think the biggest impact is when you are able to pull yourself out of those negative thoughts and you pull yourself back into the present moment. You can live in three different places. You can live in the past, you can live in the future, or you can live right here, in right now, in the present moment. And of those three, you can only influence right now. I mean, but I mean, of course, you can influence your future by taking the right actions today, but you can only control today. That's what I mean. And most of us, and I've been on that camp, that was my biggest, I would say, drawback or setback or weakness, if you want to, character trait that didn't serve me well, let's put it this way, that I used to spend so much time dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. And I didn't really have any tools to correct that negative thinking pattern until I started reading a lot of material regarding stuff like that. And then I realized that the simple gratitude exercise where I just start writing down the things that I enjoy, that are good, that I appreciate in my daily life. It could be as simple as, you know, I have a clean shirt, I have clean water from my tap, I can take a shower, I have food in the fridge, I can do this and that. It's very simple. Was able, you know, by doing that over and over and over, I was able to gradually, step by step, cut my ties to those toxic elements of past and future. Do you only journal positive thoughts or events? No, I journal a lot, less so than 3 years ago, 2 years ago, but I write down, mostly it's nowadays, I would say it's 80% business content, notes. So I basically this is what I have, this is my journal. It's my WhatsApp conversation with myself, that's what it is. It used to be pen and paper, like notebooks. I have 3 or 4, you know, thick notebooks full of notes. So it started more like 80% personal stuff and 20% business. And gradually it has changed because I've made so much progress with the personal development. So now I don't need that much of it anymore because I can trigger that part of my brain right away when I know that, okay, I'm doing that again. Okay, since I have hard time like anybody else dealing with uncertainty, I'm like, okay, how can I take myself back to the present moment? Then okay, So activate that part of the brain. Okay, start writing things down. Start just, thinking about those things that you're grateful for, and start to appreciate what you have right now. And I can do it right away. In the past, I had to really journal. But no, it's not just positive, it's everything. And if I go back now, if I went back to 3 or 4 years ago, there would be plenty of quote unquote negative stuff or hardship related things here. But nowadays I try to, like I said, 80% business, 20% personal, and it's just overall, it's anything that comes to my mind, but mostly positive nowadays. But I think it's important to capture, the reason why it's important to capture negative thoughts too, is because of this. So if you write down the things that bother you today, those little fires, or those little things that make you overwhelmed today. So go back, once you do that today, then 6 months from now, go back or look back and see how many of those things that were super important 6 months ago are still on your radar. And I would argue probably none of them. You know what I mean? So by doing that, since you have some hardship, adversity, related things there in your journal as well, and then when you go back 6 months later, it's like, oh my God, this was nothing. And then eventually you're like, okay, start asking yourself, this thing that I worry about today, what are the chances, what are the odds of this happening? And then finally, am I going to worry about this thing when I'm 90? And if the answer is no, then you just have to find a way to get rid of that bad thought. How do you do that? It's up to you. What works for me is that gratitude journal. And just there are other ways, but I think that's the most powerful one. And the other thing I like is that I just have to distance myself from the outcome, like I also mentioned here in my journal. So just like get comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's like lower the cost of decision making so that you're not afraid of the outcome. So it's like, no matter what happens, I'm fine either way. If you're very end result driven, if the outcome is how you measure your happiness and success, you're going to be disappointed all the time. So find a way how to distance yourself from the outcome and live in a one-day cycle where you just ask yourself today, what do I need to do today? What's my signal? And the rest becomes noise. And then you measure your success at the end of that one-day cycle, meaning when you go to bed, asking yourself, did I just do what I was supposed to do today? If you did, regardless of the short-term results, you succeeded. See what I mean? And that's how you distance yourself or cut ties to that very outcome-driven way of seeing life. This is huge. I mean, many people would say that, well, how do you ever get anything done? No, you don't distance yourself from those long-term goals. Quite the opposite. But when you take the pressure off of that thing, it's like when I help somebody sell. I mean, like let's say if I'm a salesman, I would argue that, or salesperson, I would argue that the best strategy to sell is to really approach that situation with somebody in a way that, okay, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm actually trying to help this person make a decision. So no matter what's best for them, I'm going to recommend that. I'm going to be fine either way, regardless of the outcome. And as a byproduct, you're going to be a good salesperson because you listen and you're willing to solve their problems. So that way you become less outcome driven. Of course, you want to make your sales, but you get better prospects and you learn how to recognize their needs so that you can actually solve their needs, because you don't want to convince anybody to buy from you if they truly don't need your product. You're just going to ruin your reputation. It's the same way when you are, I think, talking about your own happiness. You need to, short term, like a week or month, you distance yourself from that so-called goal or outcome. And that way, long term, you're going to achieve them better. Because in the end, you always get what you deserve. You always get what you deserve if you put in the work. So you're actually not working less, quite the opposite. You actually end up working more and you're more effective because you just don't stare at the outcome. You actually stare at the right actions. I don't know if that makes sense. But that's how I look at it. That's how I look at it. It's a good question, though. My hoodie is kind of thin and crooked, so it doesn't keep my microphone there that well. Yeah. Being able to continue doing something without seeing the result of your work is one of the best competitive advantages. Being able to continue doing something without seeing the results of your work is one of the best competitive advantages. That's the exact same thing, basically. Just keep working. You don't need that instant, well, not the same thing that we just talked about, but 5 minutes ago I mentioned. So if you don't need that instant gratification, instant feedback, and just be able to delay gratification, you just keep working, and you can deal with uncertainty and unknown, then you're going to be in a good spot. Everyone else is feeling the same discomfort as you are. I don't know if this is going to work or not. This is hard. No one is telling that I'm doing a good job. Another day without likes, subscribers, or customers. See, that's the thing. People want that vanity metrics. Top 100, see, top 100 podcasts in the world account for 80% of all the plays. 100 shows out of 4 million. Think about it. So top 100 podcasts in the world account for 80% of all the plays. So if there are 4 million shows, 100 of them, or podcasts, capture 80% of all the traffic or attention. Intensity times consistency equals success. People overestimate the importance of intensity and underestimate the long-term impacts of consistency. Do not sacrifice the latter for the former. In the short term, your success depends on intensity. In the long term, your success depends on consistency. Do not sacrifice the latter for the former. It's from Tim Ferriss. Yeah, that's where it's from. I usually try to put the person behind the quote if I use somebody else's. When you start, you have nothing to lose. It's like going to a casino and being allowed to play until you start winning. How long would you be willing to play poker at a casino if you had nothing to lose and the only question is when you start winning? Many of these quotes are to myself. I mean, I have a conversation to myself. I didn't write these for anybody else. Keep that in mind. I actually was coaching myself because this is basically a couple of months after I had started my new business, which required me to create content to market and promote, which is basically I wanted to start helping other entrepreneurs, and I wanted to put my name and face out there to everybody, for everybody to see, which I had never done before. So I literally started from scratch without any name or brand or face recognition in the so-called, on the big stage, meaning YouTube. So I just had to remind myself constantly in the beginning, and I still need to do that, about the right ways of thinking and working because I wanted to stay on the right path. It's been kind of easy for me always to work like this intensity versus, or intensity times consistency equals success, like what Tim Ferriss was saying. Both have been natural and easy for me. I'm very, I have a lot of intensity built into my actions, I think. I'm very passionate about the things that matter to me. And I've always been very consistent. So I guess you could say that I have the so-called building blocks for quote-unquote success. But still, I mean, I just like I said, I talked to my social media, my content guy, on Tuesday, and I was just saying that one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur is to know if you are early or if you're delusional. If you think about it. So if I want to become the, I don't know, I'll give you an example, best rollerblader or skydiver in the whole world, okay? I don't even know what that means, but as an example, a surfer. If I want to be the best surfer in the world, do I know if I have it in me? Meaning I think everybody can get significantly better in almost anything. The only question is how long is it going to take? So if I wanted to become a top 1% content guy on YouTube as far as coaching real estate business owners or other entrepreneurs, and maybe focusing on mindset stuff and focus on discipline, because I think kind of people naturally gravitate towards me because of that. So do I have it? Do I have what it takes to reach that top 1% status? I don't know. So that's, I think, why the question is super relevant as far as, am I early or am I delusional? Do I have what it takes? I have no idea. If somebody told me, well, this is like if you start, when you start, you have nothing to lose. It's like going to a casino and being allowed to play until you start winning. How long would you be willing to play poker at a casino if you had nothing to lose and the only question is when you start winning? Okay, when, not if. Okay, so yeah, I think I know already now that I'm good enough to make money, but am I good enough? Am I early or am I delusional as far as being top 1%? If that's my goal. That I don't know. And then the question is, then it gets really interesting if, let's say I said in the beginning, it's going to take me 5 years to get somewhere, okay? So what then if I reach that 5-year milestone and I'm like, okay, I'm only top 10% maybe, or whatever the number is. I'm like, okay, do I keep pushing and do I pivot? Then the next question is push or pivot. It's kind of related to the am I early or am I delusional thing. It's hard. And I think my natural tendency is always to push, because the reason why it's so hard for me to pivot is that I feel like I'm giving up. And the reason why I don't want to give up is because I know I'm honestly terrified. I'm scared that at the end of the day, I would regret something, meaning that I just didn't try hard enough or I wasn't committed long enough to this one thing. So I think that's why naturally it's easier for me to push and not pivot. And I really have to convince myself, really like give myself a pep talk and give myself a permission to say, yeah, it's okay for me to pivot. Honestly, the hardest thing for me maybe to start this business and deprioritize my real estate development company was that I'm like, am I giving up? Am I a loser or am I somebody who's just giving up too easily or early if I pivot and start something that I feel really passionate about? I really had to have like super many conversations with myself. So I think that's how deep that push thing is in me. And I think it's so deep in me that it's probably, to a certain level, or to a certain extent, it's probably a weakness, but it's also a strength at the same time. But then the way I justified it to myself was that, okay, well, if this is your passion, then you just have to do it because the same thing applies. So if you don't do it now, you're going to regret it the rest of your life if you didn't give it your all. So. Positive feedback loop, something we talked about. One of the reasons why gym is so compelling is that pump gives you a short glimpse of the future version of you. That's what I will look like in the future if I keep doing what I do now. More experienced and skilled people know how to create positive feedback loops for themselves daily. You know what success looks like and you get gratification from the little things and cues in your daily life. I think this is really relevant. Somehow we all want to have those little cues and glimpses of future success, and you know, this is from somebody else. I don't remember. I actually think who this is. I think this was Chris Williamson. He's the podcaster guy who has the, I don't know if you watched it, Modern Wisdom on YouTube. I like him. He's from the UK. He has good content. I think this is what he said once about the positive feedback loop and why training at the gym, and especially getting, you know, those of you who lift weights know what I'm talking about. So you get a pump, you know what I mean? So quote unquote, your muscles are more inflated because there's more blood. Let's say you pump your biceps and then you see the veins better. Well, I mean, this might sound ridiculous, you know what I mean? But I think it's very real. And I think that's why lifting weights, for instance, is so addictive to certain personalities who understand that. Well, first of all, they're visual. Maybe they have deep insecurity problems. And then when you see that, even for a short period of time, you see the future version of you, it gives you a lot of motivation. So ask yourself, if I want to do something, that's why losing weight is hard, because even during the workout or right after that, you don't look thinner. Of course, your weight fluctuates and whatnot, but in a business, how do you do that? I think the way is that you get good feedback for somebody, you get a good review, or people like your content, say, hey, well done, or somebody's asking a comment saying I appreciate your content. Maybe that's the thing. I think that's probably the same thing. It's not that much money or anything else, but I think if you start a new business to make more money or buy a Lamborghini, you dead on arrival anyhow. That's not the right motivation. You need to, if you start something, it has to be for the right reasons. And who am I to say what the right reason is? But if I think money is not deep enough, it's not strong enough. Because when it gets hard, you're going to find another path. Say, okay, well, there's a shorter distance to time to money is shorter here, at least according to my opinion. Because if I don't truly enjoy what I do, if I'm not passionate about it, then there's a greater chance that I quit or I pivot and start doing something else, because the grass always looks greener on the other side of the fence. Simplify. Talk about skills rather than character traits, feelings and intuition. What actions can I take to become more patient, rather than saying be more patient? Yeah, that's a good way to do it. A good way to put it. If people don't know how to explain it to you, like you were in 6th grade, they don't know it themselves. If they don't know how to teach it to you, if I'm asking, like, if I wanted to become a really good painter, I wanted to paint garage doors, and I bet you that the best garage door painter in your town is able to explain to you exactly what it means, like break down the process to you, because he or she has done it so many times that it's probably very natural for that person. Meaning they have been forced to analyze the process and every aspect and nuance of that process, every step of the way, so well that they can explain it to you as well. Versus somebody who's a rookie hasn't done it enough many times, so it doesn't work that way. So if you really want to test somebody's capability in something, whether they really know what they're talking about, ask them to explain it to somebody who's a complete rookie in that domain. Instead of saying, I'm not this type of a person, whatever the character trait is, say, I have not yet mastered these skills to become that type of person. I think that's the same way another way to put it. Patience, figure out something else to do in the meantime. There's no magic, there are no silver bullets, it all comes down to behavior and actions. Yeah, don't tell people to be like this or that. If you haven't been able to break it down to concrete small actions, you are not giving any useful advice. That's exactly what I said. People who can't break it down to behavior and actions don't know it either. Audit who you listen to. They might be good at it, but terrible at teaching it. Transferring skills and behavior is a skill too. That's also true. So it could be that your city's best garage door painter is terrible at teaching, so that person could still be the best painter. But yeah, there's, of course. About doubters, the business never works until it's the one that does. The episode doesn't take off until the one that does. Doubters are 100% right until they are not, and that's the one time that matters the most. This is from Alex Formosi. I already remember this. The person whose goal is to keep playing always wins, because by playing he wins. This is important. So there are two kinds of games that you can play in life. There are infinite games and finite games. Infinite game is a game that never ends. Okay? I'll give you an example. I play 3 types of games in life: health, family, and business. All of those games, in my opinion, are infinite. They're not supposed to end. Let's start with fitness. I've been training for 32 years. I eat a certain way. I lift and I do, according to my knowledge, in my opinion, everything in my power to live forever. Of course, it's not going to happen, but that's how I do it. So my goal is not to be in my beach body shape by next summer, but I plan on staying healthy as long as possible. That's the definition of an infinite game, not a finite game. A finite game would be somebody just trying to do a crash diet by next summer to fit in that wedding dress, and then that's it. Then they like let go. That would be a finite game. Business is the same thing. I never lose if I never quit. I might have to pivot several times, but if I win by just staying in business. And relationships are a good thing too. Family, a good example. Family, if you're married, your goal is not to win that argument, but your goal is to stay married one way or the other, right? Obviously, assuming that you have the right partner. Certain things you can't fix, then you just walk the fuck away. But assuming the person is right for you, there will always be arguments. So your goal is not to win an argument, but your goal is to do whatever it takes to stay married. I don't know if this resonates, but that's how I look at life in many respects. So that's why I don't want to start things that I can. I don't want to do things just for the sake of a year. I basically start things that I never stop. Have you watched movie The Founder? It's about the founder of McDonald's. I don't think. Let me think now. I think I started watching that when I was on a plane, either traveling the U.S. or coming back from the U.S. last Christmas. Is that a movie that was released recently, or am I just completely mistaken? But I don't think I have seen it. There's one movie that was about McDonald's that I started watching but never finished it. So yeah. But I don't think I have. So tell me about it. What about the movie? Was it good? You know what? Now my memories might start to serve me again. Is that the one where the I gotta Google it. I know exactly. I might know the actor, and if so, I think I've seen it. Yeah, I have actually. It's based on a true story. Yeah. Okay. Now, yeah, here it is. Yeah, this is the guy. I can't remember. He was in Batman once, right? Michael Keaton. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did. I didn't watch the whole thing. Yes. 2016. I was going to ask you about your opinion about this guy's approach to life. Yeah, I mean, one thing about me, I'm terrible at movies, by the way. I might watch something, literally, we could go and see a movie together or whoever. I go and see a movie with somebody yesterday, like a week ago. And you ask me about it, I'm like, it's gone. Some people have this memory that they remember these old movies and I forget everything. And I've always been thinking why that is, but I think it's just, I don't know. We all have limited capacity, and maybe my brain is just saving that space for something else because it knows that this guy is kind of like analyzing everything. So movies are the least important thing. But sorry, I can't have a conversation about it. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. But if you tell me about his philosophy, I'm more than happy to comment. He was a sales rep, right? I think so. Yeah, yeah, it's just like those things are gone. I don't really watch I don't really watch that much. I mean, occasionally I might watch a little bit of Netflix. I don't watch any TV. I haven't been watching TV other than live sports occasionally. So once every, I don't know, a month or 2 months, I might watch a game or something, but that's usually always never news, never no political debates because that to me is just noise. I just like I get frustrated when I watch that stuff, so I just stay away from it. But what I do occasionally watch is, maybe a good movie once a month, once every 2 months, or maybe a Netflix series, a little bit here and there, but very little. I just work. Cool. Yes, he sacrificed a lot to make McDonald's. Yeah, I mean, obviously he had to. I mean, it's no different than anything else. If you want to achieve something great, I mean, all of these stories, You think about these great founders. I mean, they basically have. This is the thing. So, what many people don't understand is that these guys who really built these huge success stories, they were willing to pay the price. There's always a price to pay, and the price could be your family, the price could be your friends or your hobbies or your personal health or fitness, but there's a price to pay, and these people are willing to pay that price. They don't say yes to everything. I think what separates a guy like him, Ray Kroc, actually, okay, sorry, being sidetracked. When I lived in San Diego, my son played hockey at the local Kroc Center. So now I remember, okay, so he was the founder, him and his wife, because he passed away before his wife, right? So they founded the Kroc Foundation or whatever, and the Kroc Center that my son played hockey at, the last 2 or 3 years, that was, yeah, that's the type back to his stuff. But anyhow, yeah, so what many people don't understand is the sacrifices that these people make. So you have to be really good at understanding what's relevant and what's not. And then usually the most difficult part is to be able to say no to everything else. Literally say no. And like be willing to disappoint people, be willing to just be socially awkward, like walk away from conversations, walk away from parties, just like not really care what other people think and just do your thing. And oftentimes, like in these stories, there are times when you're the only one believing in that idea. And that's exactly where that, if you listen to the first part of this conversation, this live, when I talked about this instant feedback loop, that many people, like, they really, really need that. It's like an addiction that you're so used to this instant feedback that the society is giving you. When you're an entrepreneur, you're like Ray Kroc, a guy like that, there is no instant feedback for you. Nobody's patting you on the back at the end of the day, say, hey, Ray, what a great job you did. Tomorrow you're going to be better. No, he's probably the only person on the planet who believes in his idea when the going gets tough. And that's hard. That's so freaking hard. It's unreal how hard it is. And I mean, who am I to say? I'm nowhere close to his level of success, but I've done stuff, and I know that everything requires a lot of work and a lot of sacrifices. So. Yeah, now that you mentioned this, I start to remember a little bit. It's somewhere deep down in my memory lane. It's funny. Yeah, movies, I mean, man, I just like, it's gone. I remember like when I went to school, if I had a test, an exam, like say in high school about something that was like of no interest to me, I could go and take the test. I was able to pretty much almost memorize everything, and then like after the test, a day later, I'm like, I think it's all gone. So I had no interest in it, the topic. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't have any interest in the movie, but I think it's the same thing that I know that I think I can absorb the learnings as I go, as I watch it, and then after that I'm like, okay, it's gone. I don't need to. I can erase that from my hard drive, if you will. Yeah, I'm just trying to massage my shoulder. It's like crazy how much it hurts all the time. Any other questions? Thanks for the interaction, by the way. I appreciate it. It's been almost an hour, 55 minutes. I can keep going, but let's have a conversation going. Any other success stories that you guys are familiar with? You mentioned Ray Kroc and the McDonald's story. I'm in the middle of my gym workout. Okay, good for you. Good for you. What do you do? What kind of a workout split do you have? And how old are you? I have a massage appointment tomorrow, luckily. $41. Okay. Arms. Okay. Right on. Good for you. I've tried every single split in my life probably. My favorites have always been push pull legs, meaning just chest delts and triceps, so, back and biceps and then legs. But I think my favorite right now is upper body, lower body, and I like those big compound movements. Barbell, dumbbell exercises, lots of bent over rows, seated cable rows, pull-ups, stuff like that. And I think the problem with a so-called typical bro split is that your legs don't get enough stimulus. And I think that's one of the things that I've always wanted to prioritize, because my legs, especially my quads, don't really recover as fast as the rest of my body, and I have to be really careful with that. And then if my quads get really tight, then my hip flexors get tight, and then my lower back is messed up, and then I might have these issues. I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had any in years, but my lower back would seize up if I had just if my legs were super tight. But anyhow, so it's been better lately, and but yeah, we all need to find the routine that's best for us, and then it doesn't really matter what it is as long as you just stay consistent and you work hard. So I think that's the most important thing. Any other questions? I can keep going with my notes. Maybe I need a reminder for myself about the right way to keep going. So the goal is incoming. Where are we? The person whose goal is to keep playing, yeah, that's what I already mentioned. So then on August 29th, so you prefer fewer but longer workouts per week or more. For instance, 5 workouts per week, but shorter, max 5 minutes forward. Yeah, so I train like 4 times a week. Typically, sometimes I do I train the same body part twice every 8 days, every 7 to 8 days. Yeah, so, but I would say 4 times a week. And no, I can't do 45 minutes with warm up. Mine are like an hour and a half. But like today, I went to the gym like 9:15 in the morning, and I was done I had lower body 10:45, 10:50, so an hour and a half. But that includes my warm up too. And I train hard, so intensity is pretty high. But I've been training for 32 years, so keep that in mind. So I don't know what your background is, but there's no way I could have trained this way when I started, because my mind muscle connection is crazy good, meaning I can just get a lot out of myself by just doing 1, max 2 working sets, until failure. I can really put everything behind just 1 set. Let's say today I did legs or lower body. What did I do? I had leg extension, and then I had lying leg curls in the beginning. So 1 hard set in each. That was kind of like warm up. Then I did some lunges. I actually did 2 working sets. Then I had back squats. I did 1 working set. Then I had hip thrusts, 1 really hard working set, and then another hamstring exercise and 1 exercise for my calves. So how many? Maybe 6 or 7 different exercises for my lower body, and anywhere between 1 to 2 working sets. Never more than 2 working sets per exercise. It's just, especially if I train again in 3 or 4 days, there's just no way I can recover. That's one thing. And like I said, I can isolate the muscle pretty well, and the mind muscle connection is there, so I can get a lot out of myself. I can get like, my utilization rate is high, let's put it this way. Yeah. So I don't do a lot of volume. I rather take, occasionally I could do like more like a high intensity type of workout where I still just do the same exercises, but I just shorten the rest period between sets, and I go do it that way. But for the most part, if I have to choose between 60 seconds of rest between sets or 3 minutes, or between 1 and 3 minutes, I would lean towards 2 or 3 minutes, and then just make sure that I get everything put into that one set. See what I mean? That's how I train nowadays, and it works really well. But well, I don't know what is really well, but I mean, I have to be so-called overtraining is what I have to be careful about, because especially certain body parts, like my chest and my quads and my rear delts and my upper back, if I don't take care of recovery, it's like I can't move my head, turn my head, or it's like my head starts to hurt and crazy stuff. I spend a lot of time and money on recovery, chiropractor, massage therapist regularly. So I see a massage therapist every 2 weeks and a chiropractor every 5 to 6 weeks. Well, a lot of money, it's all relative. But every 2 weeks I go and get a deep tissue 90-minute massage. Like tomorrow, we're probably gonna just focus on chest, delts, and back, because it's just like crazy tight now. And yesterday I saw a chiropractor. The week before I saw a chiropractor because my upper ribs, it's like they get, what's the right word? They like not in sync, not in full alignment. They are crooked, whatnot. And my spine was kind of like heavy lifting. So it's like my L3 and my L5 and 6 are always off a little bit. So he has to adjust my spine. So those types of things, no matter how much I massage my shoulders, is it L3? My upper ribs, which kind of connect up here, which you have to kind of crack a certain way if you're a chiropractor. It's almost like somebody's like pressuring, like putting I don't know, like putting something up against my throat or my lungs. I can't almost like breathe. So it's like then have to get it adjusted again. And chiropractor is the only person who can do that. I can try to crack my own back, and I lay on this foam roller. See this thing? I have this piece of, PVC this pipe that I use to quote unquote foam roll, but I mean, it's just useless unless I just get it corrected by a chiropractor. That's how I do it. And then I also stretch a little bit, but stretching is not very effective in my case. Yeah, it's good, but using the roller is much better because the muscle tissue gets softer that way. Stretching is just, stretching it, but it's like, it doesn't really have that. I want that deep impact. That's why I like that. It's painful, yes, but the deep tissue massage is something that I enjoy. I don't enjoy that, but I need it. And then also that thing, especially when you're on your side, your IT band, and you kind of roll the IT band using that hard PVC pipe. It hurts, but it's good. It helps a lot. But it's another thing to focus on, and that's the thing. If you have a lot on your plate, and might sound silly, but if you're really pushing hard and your all of your energy and focus goes towards, I don't know, maybe business, improving making sure that you get better at it. So how do you then make sure that, I mean, it's just, I don't know if you guys have been there, but sometimes you just don't have the bandwidth. You just don't. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. Yeah, you could say, okay, why don't you just take 10 minutes? But maybe it's just like, you don't even think about it because you're so deep in your thoughts and you try to solve something else. You're so focused. You're in the zone as far as doing something else. So then just neglect it. There's really no way to explain it. Some of you might be able to relate to this. a longer update. The goal isn't coming at you fast enough, because every person you've seen accomplish the goal, you only see it the moment they accomplish it. The reason that it hurts so much is when people are like, must be nice. Oh, that happened overnight. Because every time you fail, no one cares and no one sees. But when you finally win, people take notice and discredit it. But the only time they notice is when you actually win. And so to even further reinforce the point, the fact that everyone looks like an overnight success means that the 10 years where they sucked, no one saw. And so the fear that you have about people noticing the fact that you failed is ridiculous, because they are barely going to notice when you succeeded. This is complicated. I know it's too long, but the point is that when you quote unquote make some, whether it's making money or whatever success to you means, I'm not here to say that money is the only thing. It's not my number one priority, has never been. But anyhow, whatever success means to status or money is usually what people are after. So when you finally so-called make it, then people are like, oh, must be nice. Oh, you got lucky. Oh my, you just, market was on your side. And nobody sees the 10 years or the 15 years behind the scenes that you just did absolutely nothing but just you grinded every day. And I think it's, as long as you understand that's the way it goes, it's just like, yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. I constantly struggle with the energy levels. Try to do great in the gym, but it sometimes comes at the expense of performance in other areas in life. So you don't think that if you give it your all at the gym, that would actually translate to other areas of life? So do you think that's the opposite in your case? So if you really push hard there, it's actually that energy, you kind of suck energy at the same time out of other areas in life? Is it because you just have to, do you have to really push yourself to go to the gym? I mean, is that something you enjoy? Is that sustainable? Is training at the gym your thing? Is my question to you. I think we all have our natural, I mean, I don't really, I'm of the opinion that that we should just find that sport or that activity that we absolutely love, because that's the only way how we can keep doing it for decades, because I think that's what it takes if you want to live forever. Well, yeah, just kidding, nobody lives forever. You know what I mean? Maybe running is that thing for somebody. Maybe playing table tennis is that for somebody. I probably keep overtraining myself. Maybe. Or the real reason, the real question is going to the gym your passion? When you go on, let me ask you this: when you go on vacation, do you train? Let's say you go out of town for a week or 10 days with your family. Do you find the gym nearby? And do you go train? Is that the same as packing your toothbrush and your deodorant in your backpack? Do you pack your gym clothes with the same intensity and passion? See what I mean? Is that part of your daily routine no matter where you are? Because again, everybody is different, but to me, gym is always the opposite. It gives me energy. It never sucks energy out of me. Never. But again, I'm just saying. Yes, I train when I'm on holidays. I miss it when I can't work out. Okay. Okay, good. Then it feels strange to me, but okay. So let me see. I constantly struggle with the energy levels, trying to do great in the gym, but it sometimes comes at the expense of performance in other areas of life. Okay, give me examples. What does that mean? If you give it your all, let's say you do when you train your arms, there's no way you can exhaust yourself. That's just those are small muscle groups. That's a walk in the park. But I want to understand, okay, let's say you do a heavy ass deadlift followed by a front squat, ass to grass until failure. You know what I mean? Give me an example after that. What does it mean? Are you so exhausted that you are just on the couch and you can't do anything in other areas of life? Is that what you mean? I love the end of the workout a lot. I basically get the equivalent of the runner's high. Okay, I get that. Okay. But answer my question. So what happens after? I'm not interested in your arm work. I'm not discrediting it. You know what I mean. If you've been training hard enough, arms is it's a walk in the park. But like if you do a drop set, I mean, I would if I go and train with you and we do a superset, we go hack squatting and we go leg press and then lunges after that, and you puke your, I mean, you know what I mean. It's like really going until the failure. What happens after that? Brain fog the next day is common. Okay. Okay. I can't relate to that. Maybe I can't so-called solve your problem or give you advice because I can't relate to that. I actually get energy out of it. To me there's two possibilities. Maybe it takes, how long have you been training? You're 41 now. Is this a new thing to you or have you been doing this for decades? Because if you started 2 or 3 years ago, maybe you just have to build your resistance up. But if you've been doing it for 20 years and you've always been training hard, then I find it interesting. I started when I was 16. Okay, so you've been training, you've been at it for 25 years. Okay, that doesn't explain it. So brain fog the next day. Okay, so what happens if what happens if you just, okay, so if you don't do like, if you don't literally try to kill yourself at the gym and you kind of like turn it down a notch or two. Let's say you do, okay, I'll give you an example. So if I do 1 or 2 working sets, I'd really try to maximize my intensity. I work a lot with computers, software development that requires a lot of focus for extended periods of time. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, so you mean that, okay, when you really push it hard at the gym, so then there's brain fog and basically that impacts your level of concentration. Okay, I get that. So what happened? Okay, I'll give you this, not advice, but piece of advice, but just offer my opinion. So what happens okay, let's say that you train hard now and you like literally do like you take those working sets until failure. You know what I mean? So what if you left 2 reps in reserve? So let's say like if your 10 rep maximum would be, 100 pounds, whatever, and then you would basically do just 8 reps, 7 to 8 reps. And instead of doing 1 or 2 working sets, you would maybe do 3 to 4 sets, and you would do kind of like, see what I mean, like 90% intensity. So would that help if you don't really have to push those last 2 reps? Because you could basically probably stimulate the muscle, exhaust the muscle the same way, you know what I mean? But without the cost of that nervous system overload. See what I mean? Because I don't think you're overtraining probably, but maybe that, do you understand what I'm trying to say? So if you worked a little more, but with less intensity, so ultimately the load or the level of disruption you are able to kind of damage you're able to do to your muscles, because that's the whole point, right? That's why we go to the gym. So we kind of damage the muscle so that it gets better and stronger and bigger and whatnot, because that's the idea, right? We want to be in better shape. But what if you just crank down or turn down the intensity a little bit, but maybe increase the volume just a tiny bit? Would that help you with the mental fog? Because I think your nervous system wouldn't take such a big hit, and then it would be better for you maybe from the mental clarity perspective. Does that make sense? That's the only thing I can really offer. And the other thing is that, what about nutrition? Are you spot on? Yes, I lift heavy, mostly at 6 to 8 reps per set. Yeah. Maybe it's the nervous system. What if you just started doing 8 to 15 reps? So the load, so the mechanical load would be less, a little lighter weights. Actually might be better, change things up a little bit. See what I mean? So you change the style a little bit. That would be easier on your nervous system. And then you would be able to avoid the mental fog. The other thing, like I said, is nutrition. But if you've been doing it for so many years, I assume that that you understand nutrition pretty well. What about, have you noticed that yes, I have to try it. Good. So the other thing, like I said, nutrition. What about if you play with your carbs? Like on a day like that, when you really have to concentrate, I would try to avoid large amounts of carbs, especially fast acting. So maybe go a little heavier when it comes to protein intake, moderate when it comes to fats. So one way to do it would be to kind of, I don't know what time you train. I don't know what time zone you're in. If you're in the US, you obviously now is your morning. But if you're in Asia somewhere, then it's like later at night. One way would be to just like, if you train in the morning or even early afternoon, you could try something like, let's say you have 200 grams of, I'm just giving you examples. Let's say your daily carb intake is 200 or 300 grams of carbs, okay? Whatever. So try to change your diet such that outside, I mean, like you have this window, like right before, during, and after your workout when you would like consume most of your carbs. So 80% of your carbs you would consume right, I mean like not right before, but like a couple of hours before. During your workout, you would have an intra drink, like amino acids and carbs, and then right after. But most of the time, during the other times of the day, you would be very low carb. Do you understand? Would that have an impact on your mental clarity? Because to me, this might sound more like a nutrition thing. So is there something that doesn't work well with the focus side of your brain, so to say? If you played with your carbs. What time is it now, right now, where you are? Ireland. Oh, I did the train after lunch. Ah, after lunch. Okay. So it's 4 o'clock right now, where you are. Yeah. It's 4:20. What do you think about that? So it's like, is it before? So you said it's right after your workout when you have hard time concentrating. No, actually, you said it's the day after, the morning, like the fog, the brain fog comes the day after. But then it's hard to, I don't know. I would need to, I don't know. If you want to have a chat, I have no problem. Just let's have a video call and catch up. But I could offer you my 2 cents for what it's worth. Actually, I keep working on my carbs. The issue that I'm going to have is tomorrow morning. I usually 2 hours after breakfast it starts. Okay, what do you have for breakfast? If you go really heavy on carbs, that might be it. And what kind of carbs? Do you eat oatmeal? That would be my standard recommendation to everybody. Because if I were you, let's say I trained after lunch. If I train after lunch, so how long? Okay, so you eat lunch at, let's say you eat breakfast at 8. My breakfast is usually the full Irish breakfast with coffee and 2 slices of brown bread. Full Irish. What's full Irish? Is it the same as English? You have the beans and the bacon and the eggs, and does that mean the same thing? Sorry, I should know probably, but I don't. Full Irish breakfast would consist of 2 slices of bacon, scrambled eggs, beans, hash browns. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, so here's what I would do. So, okay, so it starts after, okay, it's 2 hours. That's too heavy. Your breakfast is too heavy for you, would be my first. Yes, Irish is similar to the English breakfast. I customized it a bit. Okay, got it. You always learn something. Okay, so here's what I would do first. I would fix your breakfast. Dude, I mean, sorry, but I mean, I don't think that's something you should be eating. Again, it's just my opinion. I'm no disrespect in any way. But here's what I would do. So let's play this out. You train right out, you said after lunch. So now it's 4 o'clock. So it means that you've had lunch and then you probably had lunch anywhere between, let's say, 12:30, my guess. And then you went to the gym like 3:30 to 4 o'clock. Or do you have lunch later? Give me that breakdown still, and then I give you. Then I tell you what I would do if I were you. Again, I'm not saying it's the right answer, but I just like what I would do. And what's your lunch like? Mm, 1 p.m. on the gym at 3 p.m. Okay, got it. Okay, got it. Okay, here's what I would do. So your brain fog starts usually 2 hours after your breakfast. I don't think it has anything to do with your training, my friend. I think it has nothing to do with your training. I had a homemade beef burger. Okay. So I don't think it has anything to do with that. That's just my opinion. I think it has to do with your nutrition. Okay. Here's how I would fix. Let's say this is the thing. Okay. So, okay, perfect. So actually, I think that's a good sequence for your meals. So let's say you eat your breakfast at 8, 8:30, whatever. Here's how I would do it. Again, this might sound like a big change to you, but again, just how I would do it. So at 8 or 8:30, I would eat, my breakfast would be oatmeal, berries, and eggs. Okay. I used to do it separately. So I cooked my oatmeal. I just, sometimes I would have half a banana sliced in there, but usually frozen or fresh berries. And then I would like boil or fry my eggs separate. 1, max 2 whole eggs and 3 to 4 egg whites. Okay. Now, since I'm lazy, I'm not, but yes, I wanted to combine them both. I've been eating the same breakfast for 5 years, which is 1 banana mashed, then eggs mixed together. So 1 whole egg, 4 egg whites, oats, like I would say 70 to 80 grams of oats, and then 1 scoop of vanilla protein. I mix it all up together and I fry it in a frying pan over medium heat. Okay, that becomes this thick pancake type thing. And I eat that thing with berries. It's the same thing as my oatmeal, bread, and eggs. But here's how I do it. Okay, so I'm just telling you first what I do. I actually train on an empty stomach. I wake up, like today is an example. I woke up like 7:30ish. I was at the gym at 9. The only thing I had at home was my morning greens and my amino acids. So I get like 10 grams of amino acids just to break the catabolic cycle of the night. And then I have caffeine, okay? An energy drink. It's, right way to say it, okay? I go to the gym, and of course I can't just like function without having energy in my system, but I have my intra workout. So I have my fast acting like maltodextrin type carbs and amino acids again, like 20 grams to 25 grams of aminos like protein, and then another 25 to 30 grams of carbs. Then I drink that throughout the workout. When I come back, I have my quote unquote breakfast. My first solid meal today was at 11 o'clock. Okay, if I did what you're doing, is I would have my breakfast. I wouldn't have that much fat in it as you have right now, because you're gonna have fat from scrambled eggs and you have plenty of fat the fat you don't need from bacon and whatnot. I don't know about your hash browns, there's fats there too. So that's too heavy for you. There's too many calories from fat. That's why you get clogged up. And I think, and there's also carbs in that. So I wouldn't do that. So I would have a healthier breakfast that's lighter in terms of calories, more and better nutrients. So I would have the oatmeal type thing in the morning. Then I would have a relatively, I would say, light lunch. So probably packed with, it could be a salad. So probably what I would do is I would probably have a little bit of rice, potatoes or sweet potatoes with maybe some chicken and some veggies, whatever, just the regular, again, good quality carbs, protein, low in fat. And then not that much carbs anymore there. I would have most of my carbs in the morning, but those are slow acting, so you get the energy slowly, right? And then when I go to the gym, in your case, like 3:30, I would have the same thing. I would have my intra-workout drink where I would have the amino acids and the carbs. The carbs are there to spike up your insulin so that you can get the nutrients into your muscle cells quickly. And it blocks the catabolic cycle again. So you destroy your muscle, and then you don't really need a recovery drink when you sip that already throughout that workout. Then when I would come home, I would again rinse and repeat. I would have similar kind of meal that I had over lunch, avoid fats and all that. So heavy is what causes the brain fog, heavy by heavy foods. I would fix that. So if you do that, make that change, I would be pretty sure that actually you see a dramatic difference in your energy. I don't think it has anything to do with training, to be perfectly honest. And if that example that I gave you has too much carbs, then I would go protein heavy. So I would just cut down the number of, my oatmeal calories would go down, or my carbs would go down, and I would add egg whites. You know what I mean? So the more you have carbs going into your system, the less you might go up and down with your fog, your insulin is spiking and coming down. But with oatmeal, it shouldn't be a problem. Does that make sense? Because the heavier the meal it is, if you think about your day today, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but if you had an English breakfast, or Irish breakfast, and homemade burger, but still, it's two heavy meals. It's too heavy, and the heavier you eat, the more tired you feel. You can, when you cut down the number of fats, meaning, remember, 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. 1 gram of protein or carbs has 4 calories. Okay? So when we have a lot of fat in our system, it clogs up the metabolism. And, at least in my case, it slows down my system. It's like fucking nothing goes out. Nothing comes in. It's like, I feel like this bloated. Well, too much carbs does the same thing. But, to me, heavy ass foods with lots of fats are just a no-go. It slows me down so much. And that same thing happens to me, I would try that. But sorry, man, you might like, obviously you like the English or the Irish breakfast, but I don't think that's a meal that you should be having long term. Just my opinion. Any other questions? It's been an hour and a half. I've enjoyed it. A little different questions this time. I truly appreciate all the questions and all the comments. And this is always fun, especially when we have a conversation like this. If I was able to help or provide any feedback, I'm happy. Hopefully it gave something, added value. Thanks for that. No worries. Anytime. Like I said, reach out if you need any help. But yeah, I think I'm going to have my next live on Sunday again. Last Sunday we had a really good conversation, so maybe 5 p.m. the same time here, local time, my time. That would be 3 p.m. in the UK, and that would be 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. East Coast, and then I always forget the India and the Singapore times, but anyhow, they are ahead of me. I think Singapore is 7 hours ahead of me, isn't it? Yep. So, anyhow, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a great Thursday evening. Have a great weekend, everybody. And then I'll talk to you latest on tomorrow. I can't do any. I'm probably not Saturday, so Sunday. I promise I will be here same time. Thank you. Bye.